Alright everybody, this is going to be a video here to show you how to replace a steering servo which has either been broken or damaged or it's just not operating correctly. So there's going to be a bunch of sub-assembly videos for the XS series, which covers the Overdrive XS, the Vixen XS, and then of course we have here, which is the Blast XS. So first things first, we want to remove the battery holder. There's 3 screws that hold the servo down. They're all Phillips. There's one here and 2 on the back side. Now the other important thing is we have this wire which attaches over to the opposing side on the receiver speed controller. So first things first, I'm going to take a pair of side cutters and we're going to snap that little zip tie and free these up. And the first thing I'm going to do is unplug the steering servo from there. Another thing you can do, I've obviously know how this goes together and comes apart, but if you get confused along the way, one of the things that I'll use for a tip is take your cell phone and take a picture so you remember which way it goes in, how it goes in, things like that. So I'm trying to do these videos with just regular kind of standard tools, not using anything tricky. So you'll notice first thing is my screwdriver here won't fit through this upper deck, so I can get this screw out. So the first thing I've got to do is loosen and remove this red metal upper deck. So it's 4 screws. They're quite long because they go all the way through down to the lower chassis. Okay, and so we've got the back off, and then there's 2 at the front. On the, if you have a Blast that has the front body mount on it, the other vehicles, the body mounts are in a different place, but on this one it's here. And we're going to remove that screw as well, because so we've got that one off, and now we can remove and take off our upper deck. Now again, as you can already see, we're getting a little pile of parts, and how helpful it is when you've got a towel or something, a yoga mat down there to hold it. So now that we've got the top bar off, we can have a lot, we can really kind of dive in to what's here and what's not here. So again, we've got the 2 screws on this side and the one on this side for the steering servo. We're also going to have to get this steering horn off. Now there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can take this servo off first, and then that'll allow you to manually with your hands pop the ball off here, or you can take a pair of pliers and take this piece here. No, you can't do that. Okay. So there's a few ways you can go about this. One, we can also remove this screw here and take the this steering rod off with the servo, or we can undo these 3 first and then attack this one at the end, because again, depending on the type of screwdrivers you have, it might be too long. For me, it's okay. Again, I try to get screwdrivers and tools that fit. Get a few tools that are dedicated to smaller objects in RC cars. So now we've disconnected the steering arm from the servo, and then very quickly here we'll remove these 3 screws that hold the servo down. So there's our top piece there, and because we've unplugged that to begin with, it comes off as a unit. So the other thing about having the towel here is if there's any kind of oils or greases that have come out from the servo box, we can kind of wipe those off. And you'll see now that we've got the servo out, the servo saver next is actually 2 pieces, and then there's a spring and the screw. So even though we're pretending this is damaged, I like to hold that while I push in and turn. And of course there is going to be some spring tension here. Okay, and we take that off, and then again with a slot or a flat screwdriver, we'll move this off here, and now we have the old one out, and we can grab our new one, pretend this is our new one. The first thing you're going to want to do is plug the servo into the receiver speed controller set, because we're going to actually want to power this on to center it. Alright, so we've got our steering servo out. We're going to pretend the one we just took out is actually a damaged one, and we've got a new one. The first thing that I like to do, because we're going to want to center the speed control, or sorry, not speed control, this steering servo. So we're going to plug this back into the receiving unit. I'm going to grab my controller here, and you'll see on here there's steering reverse and then there's trim. So I'm going to want to plug in my battery and turn it on. So we've got this on now, and with our steering trim we just want to make sure that this trim is centered. Okay, and why I say that is that the last thing you want to do is put this back in the vehicle, install everything, and then find out you've got barely any steering to, for example, say the right, and you've got a ton of steering to the left. So we want to make sure this is centered. And for me, the easiest thing for me to remember is, remember that two-piece servo horn. Okay, I'm gonna want to put those together because I'm going to use this servo horn as my degree angle. So I'm going to take this and line it up, and I can take that off once I know. So now I know when I turn the wheel, I'm getting the equal amount of steering left to right. This is the most critical part. So once we've got this on, we can then power off our vehicle, turn off our controller, you know, and for me I just unplugged the battery because I'm working on stuff. And now we're back to just reassembling what we just took apart. So the other part of the servo horn, and then we're just going to take our screwdriver and we're going to tighten this up. Now here's the trick. If you tighten this up like crazy, you're going to put more pressure on the spring, which is going to allow this two-piece horn to rotate and to essentially slip on these keyed pieces. So you want to make sure to tighten it, but not over tighten it to the point where this two-piece split servo saver is not doing any work. And when it comes down to maintenance, this is one thing, especially if you drive in any kind of wet areas where dust and debris is going to get in between this two-piece servo horn, and it is something that occasionally you really should take apart and clean. So now we've got this plugged in, we can unplug it again and place our servo in. Again, we're just going to tighten up these 3 screws. The big thing to me is you want to snug it up, but you don't want to over tighten. There is a chance you're going to have to take this apart one day, whether the servo fails or you're just doing some general cleaning and it's going to be easier to be apart. Okay, now once these 3 are in, there's nothing stopping us from reattaching our upper deck, which is on the Blast XS, at least it's 5 screws, not 4, because we've got that screw for the body post to hold the buggy body on. So I'm going to take our long screws in the back here. One thing about radio controlled cars is a lot of people, parents, don't see or don't realize the amount of applied sciences and just general knowledge you get with a vehicle like this, because you are going to have to do some maintenance on it, and you're going to learn how suspension systems and gears and things like that work. So it's an awesome fun toy to play with, but you also get to learn some things along the way, which I've always seen as a pretty cool bonus that you get. So as you can see, we're essentially all done with the exception of connecting this steering rod back to the servo, and we'll be up and running. So as you can see here, we've got our steering servo in, we've reconnected it to the speed controller receiving unit. The only thing left to do is put the screw in here. There is a little metal pivot ball that allows us to rotate nice and smoothly. So we're just going to connect this up, screw this in, and we're going to be ready to go again. One thing that can really speed up assembly and disassembly are these little screwdrivers and tools that have the rotating caps, because it allows you to spin it and use it almost like you would use a ratchet on a big full-size vehicle. So as you can see, we're all back together. For the video, I'm not going to put the a new zip tie on there, but it would be good to do that if you have it. Not necessary, because the wire is fairly cut to length, but you can kind of keep these cables and that tied down. But there you go. That's how you would replace a broken or tired steering servo in the new LITEHAWK XS Series. Please check out our extra videos on maintenance tips and tricks. Bye.